Okay, I'll call the meeting to order for the Warrant and Finance Committee on the 11th of May 2015. Before we get into any of the articles and whatnot, I have a question of the selectmen. I believe I was told last Friday or Saturday that the selectmen were, or the town clerk was looking for us to make a recommendation on the articles that are going to be on the ballot. Wants it. But at the same token, she turned around and also said that our recommendation wouldn't be on the ballot.
I think by recommendation, she wanted to know, like in past years, the for or against, how many votes, one way or the other, like it's normally on the ballot.
Well, if our recommendation for or against is not going to be on the ballot, then why do you need our recommendation?
I think that those recommendations, you have the warrant article, then you have, selectmen recommend,
Yeah.
So many for, so many against. Warrant Finance, so many for, so many against.
Yeah.
That will be on there as usual.
No, those are on the ones at the town meeting,
Okay?
but on the secret ballot at the referendum, there are no recommendations.
Okay, and then there won't be any from the selectmen as well.
All right,
Okay?
so why do they need us to make a recommendation on it?
I don't have the answer to that. What I was told today was that you won't have descriptions on there as far as explanations and whatnot. My assumption was you will still be able to vote and have those on there.
Well,
I don't know the difference between a warrant article on town meeting floor or one that you do behind the curtain.
Right.
as the draft warrant appears, there is no slot for a recommendation by anybody on these written ballot questions, but our ordinance requires us to provide a recommendation. So I guess we will go through the process of making a recommendation.
I would say go through and
Yeah.
do like you would normally do, yay, nay,
Yeah.
somebody for, somebody against.
And we have to,
And that way it'll be there, so if we do the same thing, it'll be plugged in.
yep. And the ordinance does require us to do it, so.
Sounds logical to me.
Now, the first six.
Starting with Article 3,
will be
Percy.
on the
3 through 6. Articles 3 through 6 are ballot questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we turn around and, seeing we got folks from the Ambulance Association here, pick up Article 6 first, then if they want to leave, they can leave.
We do have another meeting tonight, so if that works, that would work for us.
Okay, well, I have a group of questions for Bill, unless you prefer to kick off.
Get them on the table.
Get them on the table, okay. Do we know what the assets of the association are yet? As of yesterday, it was unclear, and we're only talking liquid assets here.
I have not talked to the treasurer since the last meeting.
Okay, so we
Right
don't-
after it, so I can't tell you nickel dime what the assets are.
Okay. And when the assets presumably are assembled and defined, are they to include accounts receivable or not? Do we know? Do we have an idea what the accounts receivable are anywhere?
Yes. In fact, you've got the one I gave you from Rick. We had that at the meeting with us, the public meeting.
Okay.
We had a report from our billing company.
Okay, and that describes all the accounts receivable. Is that right? Thank you. Okay.
How far back does the account receivable?
It was an annual account that we
Annual.
received from them, I believe, or was it 2?
It was, I think it was 13 and 14.
Okay, so it was 2 years.
2 years.
Right.
So you hold them for 2 years as account receivable?
No, we had a new company as of 2 years ago. I think that's when we went to them, wasn't it? 2 years ago.
Okay.
So we swapped actual companies from an outfit in Massachusetts to one in Maine.
Okay.
What about follow-up on billing? Do we know anything more about that?
Basically, if they have good information, they follow up for like 90 days.
And how do we know that?
I'm going on what they're telling me.
Okay.
Have we ever audited them?
What's that?
Have we ever gone to them and audited them?
No, we have never audited
Never,
them.
never done it?
No, I believe they're a bonded certified company that,
Doesn't make any difference, I just.
well, I don't think we go bonding anybody as an ambulance board of directors.
Say that again?
I said, I don't think we bonded anybody or audited anybody as a board of directors for the rescue.
Well, that's what you said before, yeah, which
Correct.
is a little concerning.
Well, I don't know if it's ever been done.
Beg your pardon?
I don't know if it's ever been done. I know it hasn't been since I've been a member of the board.
Okay, so the question of how often or frequent, and you said no known audits. And the other thing I understand is that, in fact, we don't have a letter from the Attorney General
I
saying.
don't have the physical letter. I've got word from the lawyer that she approved it. He said the letter might take another 30 days to come through from them.
Okay, so who's providing the letter, the attorney or the AG?
The AG is providing it through the attorney. The attorney wrote the letter out.
Okay.
And he is conversing with her and giving me information.
Okay.
I will talk with him tomorrow afternoon again and see what.
As far as the assets go, the accounts receivable, then I'd go back for 24 months, is that right? How many account receivables do you have over 90 days?
I have no idea.
Do you have any breakdowns like that
Yeah.
available?
Chief has a
I don't know if
report.
it's broke down like that, I think it's broke down annually,
Just annually?
I think.
So they could be 12 months old or 12 weeks old? Or 12 hours old?
But I'm sure if we ask the billing company, they'll give it to us.
If we know, exactly what specifications you want, the billing company's got them on their computer.
Well, the question is whether or not it's truly accounts receivable, if it's after a 12-month period,
Mhm.
and it has not been taken to a collection agency.
Collection agency, right.
Then I wouldn't call it accounts receivable anymore.
Right, it's gotta be scratched.
Yep.
Well, we don't have, again, in the period of the changeover, we did not have a contract with a collection agency, we still don't. We're looking at that now because it's just come up.
Right, that's what I noticed. And that's the next thing I was gonna ask you. We've been talking about this, and I got a copy of Cassie's email that said, Higgins is also sending us a contract for a collection agency, as it was never set up when we transferred to Higgins.
Correct.
So this is just something we've uncovered then.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Higgins basically has no obligation to the town of Acton or to the Rescue Association for anything that's gone by in the past, because there was no agreement. No
There
basic
was
agreement.
no agreement for collection beyond what they bill.
Right, okay. Okay, and, Smith, what was Bill and Jenny Smith's? All right, I guess, Bill,
Yep.
I got one question, and I don't mean this,
Bring it out, I don't take
okay.
anything.
This is gonna be right to it. Selectman Walsh asked you the other night if you had problems with the billing agency. You responded no.
No,
Okay, so you don't consider getting paid 50% of what you bill a problem?
I don't think it's a billing agency problem.
Can
All right.
I, am I not to address that?
Shoot,
I,
Chairman, yeah.
well, I know you said you don't want me into the financial part, because it's not really my job, but I do know partial answer to what you're asking.
Okay, if it helps.
I've talked to the billing company before, and they said that we're billing at a higher rate than towns around us.
Okay,
If we were billing at a lower rate, our percentage of returns would be higher. Does that make sense?
yeah, because people have.
So, for example, if we were billing at $800, who knows, I can't do the figures, I don't know, nothing's in front of me, but possibly that return rate would be 75%. We don't know.
Right.
They've talked to me a couple times about this, that, what we bill is at a higher rate than the surrounding towns.
Okay,
It's
that's them
something-
telling us that, well, we don't have that, we don't have.
Right, but that
Right.
50% you're talking about,
Yeah.
it could actually be a higher number, it's just that our numbers are a little different.
Okay,
Because since we're so rural, they've been bumped up.
I have a question. Does the billing agency bill insurance companies or just people with
Everyone.
insurance?
Everyone.
Everyone, and
If there's insurance,
Medicare, insurance company.
if there also there's no
Personal.
insurance, then they turn around and bill directly, I believe.
right, right. And they do follow up on collections for a certain
They
period of time, or you don't?
they don't do collections, they follow up on
For
the
90
billing
days.
for 90 days, which I don't know if that's 3 notices, you know, how they
I
set it up.
understand.
But basically, they don't do outside collections, and they would refer us to sign a
outside
contract with a
collections.
collection agency.
But we don't have one now with the collection.
No, we do
agency.
not.
Nor have we ever had.
We
Not to
haven't
my
had the past
knowledge.
2 years, apparently. Excuse me.
That's all right.
Apparently, we haven't had one for the past 2 years. And, okay.
Did we ever have one with the outfit down in
I
Massachusetts?
don't know, Izzy used to do our billing, so I don't know how she handled it.
Yeah, as he was last time. God bless her. So,
You all set?
yeah, just for everybody else's information here, I did do, and I want to run through with you, Petey, on the common calls, because what I did was I looked at 203, 204 report in the municipal book, and I just want to make sure that I have this right. Structure fires, you reported 15, vehicle fires 1, you reported medical assistance twice, I assume, or 10 times, I assume that is fire department responding to help
For like a
rescue?
lift assist or a driver.
Right, okay, that's what I thought. And then it says emergency medical services, 1, you were running to complement the ambulance, or what is that? Emergency medical service, it says.
I believe that was before you, like,
We used to have a first response
Mhm.
license on the fire department, so if the rescue was busy.
Right.
But dealing with the main state of EMS and their instrument wisdom, they come up with all kinds of ruling. So what they were saying was, if we had a first response license, any call we went to that had a patient, we had to have somebody on there that was medically trained. So in essence, if we went to a motor vehicle crash that had a patient, my engine really couldn't show up on the scene and do anything until I had a medical responder on there. I went back and forth on this and told them how ridiculous they were, and, you know, they stuck to their ground. So we felt, or I felt as a fire chief, it was more of a liability wise, because I'm not doing services that I could be doing because of their, because I could get there, the vehicle's on fire, because that's a question I specifically asked them. If that vehicle's on fire, and there's a patient inside, I can't provide a firefighter, but that, if there's a patient there and that patient sees you first, no. I said, you are ridiculous. This is how they're getting, this is how we're being governed, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, okay.
So at the time, we would do a lot more first response, because I believe their rescue was broke down for quite a while,
Yeah.
back a couple of years ago, so we was doing, basically, we were first responders for quite a while. Now, instead, what I do is, because we're pretty much unison,
Right,
you just take my squad truck with a medic and you do what you need to do for first response.
yeah, okay.
this same ruling that he's talking
Yeah.
about has caused problems within the ambulance association also with the rescue squad, because it used to be if we had a license and Chapley had a driver, or Chapley had a license and we had a driver, we'd just combine the crews and go. Well, now with Maine EMS's rules, our rig can't go unless there's a license.
Our-
It's just like their fire truck.
We can't go with our driver and somebody else's license in the back.
Yeah, right.
Can't do it.
We've done it for ever since we started,
Yeah.
and we can't do it.
So this is why we have to transfer, well, I thought we did, because we used to have to transfer people down at the foot of the lake to Sanford if we were running an ALS sometimes. or-
Well, years ago, we weren't, years ago, before she was even here,
Right,
we wasn't licensed at that.
you were a little guy too.
Yeah, we used to go down as basic response, then meet up with Sanford. And then we'd have to take the patient out of our ambulance, put in the back of Sanford's ambulance, so they could do the higher patient care.
That was because Sanford's, we weren't licensed to an ALS level, right?
Correct.
Is that what that, no, too?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So it was like Chinese fire drill, which was ridiculous. We're working a code, we ain't gonna patient out in the middle of the street, transfer it to another ambulance,
Yeah, I
and do the
remember.
same exact job, but they couldn't go to this truck to this truck. We can now.
Yeah.
They finally did something right there, but other things, they've gone completely AWOL.
Well, that's national though.
What's that?
That's national.
Yeah, well, at least in Maine anyways. Yeah.
All over.
So the answer to the question was 64 calls that year were run in common if fire responded, well, I assume all those calls would have been combined fire and rescue response.
Well, again, if the rescue was out of service, we
Right,
had
that
to help
would-
them out, or if they're out on a call,
Yeah.
we had to do whatever, yes.
Yeah. But would you go to a structure fire without rescue? You would, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Eventually, if they had crew, the rescue would go, but at a building fire, the fire truck would go first.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That is as it should be. Okay, okay.
You know, if I may,
Yes, you may.
we've been extremely busy lately, and we've had a very bad accident down on the H Road just this last Thursday. It was after the motorcycle accident in Sanford. And thank goodness, because of the public hearing, we had some folks that stood by the station. You know, I purposely asked because it's very frustrating for me as a chief, and I'm sure it is as her. We're at all these meetings, and a call comes in, and I'm like, is anybody gonna go, anybody go? So there's a lot of time I leave a meeting. What's more important? A meeting, or I'm gonna try to save somebody's life?
Right.
So we had some volunteers that hung out there, which was great. It makes me feel good, makes her feel good, and I hopefully makes the community feel good. So after the meeting, I went home and I talked to them for a while, and I ended up going home, and they stayed for a while. Then we had that bad crash, and I wanna commend them and I wanna thank them, because me personally, I really think it saved that guy's life, just as simple as opening up an airway, because they were at the station, they got out, and they were on the scene doing intervention, versus me coming from my house at night, and as I told you, it's 8 to 10 minutes response, so it does make a difference.
The first 4 minutes count.
Well, ultimately, the decisions on manning are going to be made by the town meeting, and that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
No,
I
no
just wanted to
problem,
throw that
no
out.
objection. Whatever the town meeting wants to decide, that's fine, just as long as they have the information to
Yep.
make the decision. And I understand your position, I understand Jen's position, and I hope you understand.
Absolutely.
I know you do.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Yeah, there was one other.
And we did use Lifeline on that gentleman. I mean, things clicked, it was perfect.
Did we have a fatal last night down on 109?
Unfortunately, we did, and if somebody was at the station, it would not have helped that gentleman,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know,
They said he was doing 120 miles an hour.
Where in the dip there?
kind of off subject, but.
Right.
All right.
Well, I know traffic was rerouted down my road.
Oh, was that,
Last
that
time.
was Acton?
Yeah, last night.
Well, the fatal was in Acton last night? That's what I
They said
thought I heard
Sanford,
on the
but it was
radio
us.
this morning. I missed that, okay, all right, okay. That's too bad. That's not fun for our guys, is it?
No, we had 12 responders at that scene, all had to witness that and bear that and all that other stuff. 14 responders at that one. We had 12 responders at the other bad accident and 6 from Newfield that helped us out. So volunteers are still needed. We still need the volunteers. We've never disputed that and we will never dispute it. They are just as needed now, or in the future as they are now. We're just asking to try to get patient care earlier, quicker. That's all we're trying to ask and to do.
I respect that, this whole committee respects you for that, and I think the town, I know the town does too. So that, I don't think that's an issue. It's, you know where the issues are as well as I do. The other thing I want to say before we go any further is, this process has been made unnecessarily complicated by the fact that we're dealing with 2 issues that should be presented to the town meeting separately. They should not appear linked together like this, and I have no idea why this has happened, but we have 2 issues. One has to do with funding the rescue to make sure it continues in operation. The other has to do with whether we're manning 24/7 or how we're manning the station. And those 2 issues should go to the town meeting as separate issues and let the town meeting deal with it.
Well, again,
That means therefore.
we're just here to try to be
I know, that's
presentation.
not your problem.
Okay.
That problem originates someplace else. But we all need to understand that that has seriously complicated this, because it has.
Is there any other questions from members of the committee?
If I may, was there any comment or questions from anybody that anybody received from after the public hearing? Did anybody need additional information or anything that anybody knows?
I didn't hear.
I didn't hear any.
I just want, I'm trying out as much as I can,
Right.
because I want people to know. If they don't know, please ask. And,
Right.
you know, we want to get the information out.
All right, like I said, this has been made very complicated when it should not be. And it's not easy for the town meeting to make these decisions either under this set of circumstances. But we have what we have, and it's going to the town meeting as an article which cannot be discussed, nor can it be modified or amended as it goes to the town meeting, which I also have a great deal of objection to.
Which one?
Article 6
Yeah, I know.
Article 6
is the,
with no indication as to how much money
Right.
we're supposed to raise if Article 6 passes.
Well,
I haven't seen the articles. so I
That's a
don't know.
separate decision, right, you guys haven't been.
But I suspect that 2/3 of the people are gonna vote it down because they don't know what it's gonna cost.
I don't know if they will or not, but
But that's the time to go to the town meeting.
Yep, and I guess I'll do a shout out, show up to the meeting, so if you have questions or
Because I
concerns.
say, the article at the town meeting will determine whether this goes through or not, no matter what we say at the ballot box.
Right.
But my basic feeling is, I'd rather see this, say, have a positive vote, so that if it does go through the town meeting, as is or modified, okay, then we still, but if all of a sudden, no matter what, if you say no here, and the article at the town meeting turn around and says, get deliberated and say, no, we won't go along with the 457,000, and how about if somebody turns around and says, well, how about if we turn around and do it for 50,000, or we do it for free, okay? And all of a sudden, they say, oh, that's good, we all agree. Won't do any good because it's already turned down.
I'm not so sure that's true. In order to move forward, you're going to need another, or I think you're going to need another town meeting if you're going to exercise this process properly, because
Yes.
we need an ordinance in place.
Yes.
Okay? And I am going to
So,
disagree with the chairman, respectfully. We spent 2 or 3 hours this afternoon discussing this, okay? I discussed this issue at the hearing the other night. I have 2 very big problems, and my vote on this Article 6 is going to be no. And in fact, I'm going to recommend that it ought not to pass. And, well, you were there, so you all heard it. But I'll be glad to share this with my fellow, some of you were, oh, Bill, you were there the other night.
This was presented.
I have, this is basically the outline, what I used. I abbreviated it at the hearing the other night because we were running so late. But I feel very strongly, as I said the other night, that before we touch any of these funds, and the article does call for accepting, I don't know what accepting means or where they go, it just says accepting. Okay? Before the treasurer of this town touches these funds, they need to be audited. Everybody needs to agree on both sides of the fence how much money is changing hands here. And if you don't do that, you're leaving yourself wide open to all kinds of trouble in the end, which we've already discussed. Okay? Let's imagine, and I hate to do this, but this is why you have to do this stuff. 5-10 years ago, somebody spent money in a way that they shouldn't have, and the IRS takes a look. Because you're dissolving this, the IRS is really, really interested in where that money goes. They find out somebody misspent. I don't know whether it's in violation of the bylaws, which weren't well managed, as you know, in a period of time there, or for whatever reason, okay? IRS says, we got a problem here, all right? You're gonna get fined and you're gonna owe back taxes.
but that is not the town. That's the Accident Ambulance Association.
Yes, but the Acton Ambulance Association is going to dissolve. You think IRS is going to give up chasing that money? You better believe they're not going to, and it's why we need to know how much money we have. Or if it's Medicaid or Medicare or anywhere in the system.
And
Okay?
the town has
We're
far deeper pockets.
Well, they're gonna go after the money. They're gonna start, but if there's no Acton Ambulance Association, they're gonna be looking here, okay? So this is not a good way to proceed until everybody knows what's being accounted for. Now, I really don't think I have an objection, although I want to hear an attorney and an accountant agree that if the town accepted those assets in a fiduciary account, and the fiduciary account, well, you probably know what it is, I don't know if Jen does, but a fiduciary account is like the town has cemetery funds and stuff like that. It's where the only thing that the town does in a fiduciary account is write the checks and hold the money within an account, okay? but it doesn't act or involve the selectmen in the process. It just acts at the request of the association that they're holding a fiduciary account for, okay? So it's separate and it can't be mixed. That kind of a process may work, okay? But there are all kinds of scenarios that can come up out there where this money could be encumbered at some point in the future. So if we can get an accountant to give us a positive, what do they call it? Excuse me, I'm not having another.
An audit.
Well, it's an audit, but it's opinion, okay? An opinion, right, an opinion in the audit that says, you know, the money is unencumbered, everything's accounted for, boom, 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 or as best we can, or it's marginal, or you have all these exposures out there. Before the town touches this money, the town needs to have that, and anything short of doing that is neglect on the part of
I have a
this
question.
committee and the selectmen.
There is no date on this as to when the town should have to take it over if it's approved by the voters, is that correct?
That's true.
So, I mean, in principle, I feel it's important to get this under the municipal control. And if it's approved by the voters, then it doesn't have to occur until the town gets some safeguards such as a audit and assessment of what they have available and what we're getting and what we're not getting, and accounts receivable and liabilities, etc. So, to me, it doesn't mean at the moment that voters at the town hall say, yes, it belongs to the town of Acton, correct?
That is correct. There's
So-
another issue though that I'm.
My general feeling is, I mean, there's a whole bunch of problems here, and there's a whole void of information and data that should have been collected over time that hasn't been. But so far as I'm concerned, from a theoretical point of view, if we're going to get this thing working, and we're going to be able to communicate with other towns in the county, we have to do so with the understanding that this will be a part of the town administration, of the town. And therefore, if we're not forced to start this marriage, the moment the voters say yes, it may be 6 months before we enact this.
That may be true. There are other articles coming to the floor of the town meeting at which these decisions are best made, on the floor of the town meeting when we can have an exchange of information. Turning this down does not obstruct the process. There are other articles in the warrant that involve that incorporation, and we can continue to move forward with those.
No, I don't agree with that, Tom.
Okay, I'm gonna,
I'd like to ask the selectmen if that's not true. I mean, it may take us 6 months to effect the actual acceptance of the ambulance rescue team if the voters approve it. Is that not true, sir?
There's a number of things that'll have to be put in place before it
Actually occurs.
One of which would partly answer one of Tom's questions, that's the billing company.
Yes.
The billing company right now, their contract is with Acton Ambulance
they
Association.
don't have a contract.
Not with the town of York, not with the town of Acton.
They do.
Yeah.
They do, they have a contract, they just don't have one to go beyond the 90 days. So,
All of those
we'd have to
things.
have a billing company to do it.
Before we would go ahead
Before we
and.
can go ahead and do it.
Affect
We're also
the law.
gonna need a little thing called a license.
Yes, yes.
You know, because right now, the license is under Acton Ambulance. The town of Acton will have to actually have a license, medical license to transport.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there's a number of things that'll have to be plugged in place. That really, some of that can't be done until it is accepted. Because other than that, you're buying something that you can't run, you know, in a way, so.
Is
Yeah.
the Acton Ambulance Association registered with the IRS
Yes,
as
Yeah.
a 501c3?
501c3, it is.
All right, the other part of this that concerns me, which I brought up the other night, and I will repeat again, is the fact that there is no plan and process for this. And I read a long statement, and I assume that all the members of this have had a chance to read the report of the Selectmen Commission, so I'm not going to burden you with doing that again. But basically, the report recommended a lot of this work be done ahead of time to organize and define what is being created here, because what we're doing is we're creating a combined municipal Acton Fire and Rescue company, which does not exist at this point in time because there is no such thing and there is no ordinance doing so. The process of putting this together is the process of going through creating an ordinance to establish. Without that, I don't know what we have, okay? Because we don't even have, in an ordinance, we don't even have an Acton Fire Department. Understand right now that the Acton Fire Department can exist and operate simply because the selectmen delegate that authority to the Acton Fire Department, which is their responsibility in the absence of an ordinance. All right? But frankly, I would like my officers elected by people who know what they're doing. And that doesn't, but there are only two people who have ever been, in the whole history of the Acton Fire Department and Rescue, who have ever been members of or participated in fire and rescue services. That's Mr. Walsh and myself, or Chief Walsh, excuse me, and myself. So,
But again, those things can be put in place if the voters accept the idea of transferring it to the town. It doesn't mean that the town's going to be encumbered by anything or any lack of anything when it takes over possession, because it's going to take a number of months. I'm going to guess if we have a town meeting in June to decide this, it'll be the first of next year before the actual transfer would take place.
well then what's the rush? It's gonna take that long.
We gotta get started sometime.
We've been trying to do it for 5 or 6 years now.
Okay.
Well, no,
In order to, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
my outlook on this thing is, we've been talking about it for years, and all of a sudden, this is the first time we see official action taken, okay? And myself, I think, go along with Will, is I'd like to see it a favorable vote to start the process. And then, because even if we say that we, to adopt the Article 6, it's got the catch-all in there that is subject to the 2015, 2016 budget being appropriated at town meeting. At town meeting, that opens it up, that other conditions beside the budget can be put in there. So that all of a sudden they can turn around, and at that time, the recommendation of the Warrant and Finance Committee can be due, in addition to accepting the budget, whatever we come up with, we want to recommend for a budget. And then plus, we're talking about the ordinance, you're talking about the audit or review of the financial thing, a list of the assets, all the things that we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks could be put in there as conditions before the transfer can officially go through.
Exactly.
Okay, I guess what I would like to see.
But if we vote no, right now.
Stops it right there.
Article 6, the whole thing is dead.
Exactly.
No, I don't think it is, because we have the rest of these articles in here that involve the Rescue Association, or the Fire and Rescue Association.
There's only one article.
Yeah.
Huh?
Isn't there?
No, there are three.
There are?
I think there are.
Where's the second and third one?
Well,
Yeah, but the only one that's gonna be on the ballot is Article 6.
right. 28 and 29, I guess let's see what else we have. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate law to
Yeah, okay,
benefit the
yeah.
Acton Annual Association. Okay, so. Okay, I guess
So-
I have said
So,
what I.
if we vote no on Article 6,
These two
then
ones
I think
dead.
the other articles are gonna be mute.
Yes.
Well, I would,
So why appropriate or do these things if all of a sudden the town says no, they don't want
It
it?
says right in there, if Article 6 fails, this article shall be postponed indefinitely.
okay. Again, we're talking about two issues here, and I think that's the critical key to understanding this, okay? My problem with Article 6 is it combines two issues, all right? Or a large part of my problem is it combines two
It
issues.
combines two issues that don't have to be realized until the town makes the commitment that they're going to take the rescue service under the wing of the town. That's all we're asking for in 6.
No, we're asking also to accept the assets of the association.
Okay, I mean, but that'll be a part of the preamble to getting it actually a part of the town, which may take weeks or months to effect before it's ready to go. It's not gonna happen the day after the town meeting.
Well, if we're gonna have an ordinance, we have to have a town meeting for that too.
That's fine, I'm sure the board of selectmen won't have any problem with that.
All right.
Should we call for a vote, Mr. Chairman?
Anybody else that wanna, before we turn on the vote?
I totally sympathize with Tom's thinking on this, but I can see the headache. I mean, Mr. Gore has a very orderly mind. And the rest of us are willing to cut more slack than he is, and I think that's the situation we're in. Whether or not that's a wise decision on our part or not is to be seen. It's nicer to see things laid out in front of you, A, B, and C, and one builds on another, and you can go forward with a plan in place. I know all too well life isn't always that way. So,
But the point here, Tom, is that.
No, he's gonna vote with you.
Those things have to be done, but they don't have to be done at the time of this voter election. Because if they give their consent that they like the idea of the rescue being a part of the town government, then we can work on all of these other items before the actual transfer
That
takes
should
place.
be, that should be what the question is. The question should be,
But they didn't phrase it that way, so we have to go around it, and we think we know what is right for the town. We're suggesting something that is right. We hope the voters will concur with us. But to get it all embroiled at this point in time, and having the letters all in a row, having all the assessments, having all the auditing done, having everything done, it's just impossible to do. This organization has not been geared towards that in the past. And so we have to take it the way it is.
maybe we ought to ask Mr. Walsh if he has any comments he'd like to make.
sure. May I make a comment before Mr. Walsh, if I may?
Yes.
I would hope that now that this issue is out in the open more, with more clarity than it has been before, that the board of the selectmen would step into the breach here, so to speak, and with a lot of thinking between themselves and the association and the fire department, with what time is left, craft some legible thinking for town meeting, because it obviously hasn't occurred yet. If the selectmen are hanging their hat on Article 6, it's a kind of a weak branch, and it needs some refinement, as we all understand. I think that we have that notion in common, that it certainly needs some support in terms of some thinking to allow town meeting with any confidence to go forward with this. Is going to be a leap of faith for town meeting. And there has to be some good communication in the interim through the newspaper, through whatever medium they choose. It's incumbent upon them, because they've put us in this position to bridge the gap, so to speak, in what Tom is after and what we're maybe willing to accept. Because as someone said earlier, if this doesn't get some sensibility behind it before town meeting, it's not going to go.
Leaps of faith are not a good place to be in politics.
Understood.
And no matter what.
Understood. Well, you'd have, what I'm saying is you have to add some credibility to the acceptability of this thing before it has legs, I think. And I don't know who's going to be able to do it besides the selectmen, and we can ask all the questions we want, but
So let me start off asking the selectmen. It's my understanding here that if it's a no vote, then the Articles 28, 29, both stayed in there, they don't have any effect. So the issue actually becomes dead. Until it's all of a sudden started all over again, either for a special town meeting or for another year.
Correct.
Whereas if we vote yes on Article 6, then that opens the door to Articles 28 and 29, for which we can add, although I'm not sure of that now myself, town moderator may, we may ask the selectmen to reword 28 and 29 to give us a little more flexibility, because if I remember my town meeting rules, on articles, if you try to change too much, the moderator says, no, you won't accept it.
You can't change the intent of the article.
But
But again, we have the
So,
same
as I
thing as
say,
far
you
as
know-
the date, Richard, we have the same thing as far as the date of the effective transfer of the ambulance service to the town. If it takes us until January, then obviously a budget of $400 and some odd thousand will be less, because it will not encumber monies except for half of a year. And the same goes with the other thing, with the ambulance fund. We don't have to do anything with it until we actually take it over. And it may be a long time during this next fiscal year to actually acquire it.
May I insert at this point in time that if it's a long time for that to happen, then there ain't gonna be any ambulance in this town, because as I understand, there's approximately $20,000 to fund the operations of the ambulance, okay?
Well, then, in the interim, they better get a hold of their collection agency and start getting some monies in there. And if the selectmen decide that as an interim Band-Aid sort of thing, they want to give certain amounts of money to the, you can't give it to a private agency.
Yes, you can. That's a misunderstanding. You can purchase a service from a private agency.
Okay, that's not
Which is what you would be.
Then they could do that as an interim.
The contract.
As an interim contract between the time that the voters say yes and they actually implement the transfer.
Yes.
I don't consider that to be an impediment.
No, but we're back in the same hole. Well, there's no article to appropriate money to do that. Okay, we had, Dick and I had been working on a recommendation which cannot be incorporated in Article 6, and both of us were recommending that the town appropriate an additional $50,000 to reimburse the town of Sanford for emergency medical services provided by the town at the rate of $2,000 per call when the Acton Rescue Squad drops a call. Okay? We would have to add an article to do that,
yeah,
okay? If we're postponing this combination.
well, I'd say that's something that we could discuss with the selectmen to see whether they were willing to either add an article to put these other conditions in there.
Okay, well,
But the selectmen will know that they're gonna have to do an interim agreement until the actual transfer of the agency takes place.
may I respectfully suggest that if the selectmen knew that, why is there not an article in this
I'm
warrant?
not a selectman.
Okay, but we're pushing the issue.
Nor do I want to be. Nor do I want to be.
For those of us who have been there, we're glad we're not there anymore, I think.
We had enough discussion on that.
Yes.
Let's get Bill to, if
Oh,
Bill
yeah,
would like to say something, if Bill would like to comment on any of that. Ed, I'm sorry,
Okay, say, I was on again.
Bill. I apologize.
So the only thing I want to add to it, you're probably aware why we did a valid vote on this. It is a large, well, it's two things, a large amount of money, which will be on the floor for the town, the town meeting, but it's a huge decision for the town. In the last bunch of years, you've had anywhere between 30 and 50 people show up at town meeting that were there to vote on all the articles. We didn't feel as though that was large enough number of people of the town, cross-section of the town, to make this kind of a decision to put both departments together. That's why it is a ballot question. So, just to get that out there.
I suspect there will be more than 50 people there.
I certainly hope so, yeah. I mean, I won't go into my speech about what I believed in town meetings anymore. I think things are much better behind the curtain than they are on a floor. But this being a huge decision for the town, that's how we decided to proceed with this. We had quite a decision about putting the dollar amount in that article. And thought, if we did put the dollar amount in there, you can't change it. That's the dollar amount. You put the 400 and some odd thousand in that article, someone goes into the curtain, makes a decision based on what they're reading right then, and didn't see anything else, they're gonna vote no,
Right.
Absolutely.
okay? I mean, that's the honest truth.
Yes.
You go in there, you can make a decision to yes, okay, I agree we should put this together. Then you find you're gonna make your final dollar amount on the town floor. Instead of 400, it can go down to $1, as you know.
Right.
So, somewhere in between is gonna be the number. So, that's why we did it the way we did it. There wasn't a lot of thought put into that. I initially wanted it all, dollar amount and everything right there, but it did make sense to break it up. Tom has brought up a bunch of good points, things that we need to look at. It all can be done after the fact as well, before we officially take it over. So,
Thank you.
I have one question. Liability insurance for the rescue and ambulance service runs about how much?
35,000.
I don't know what the actual breakdown is, but I do know that our vehicle insurance and our liability insurance, including the malpractice and everything,
Right.
all that as a lump sum comes to around $7,000-8,000, $7,000 or $8,000
Per
It was 60,
what?
per year.
67
Yeah.
something.
Per year? 7,000 only per year for malpractice and liability?
Yeah, we're not
And
doctors.
vehicle insurance.
I was
join the ambulance squad?
I've been in the wrong game.
Ed, I just have a question for Ed. Would you folks consider, in a good faith attempt to support Tom's thinking and yet support the need to move forward on Article 6, maybe a bit of writing in the paper or something that would speak to the voters in a bare bones way as to why we need to do this and some of the contingencies that will be addressed after the fact. But I think in good faith to Jen and Peter and Bill and the good folks that work with them, this thing is going to need some legs and some good communication to support it, I think. And we can't do that. That's not our role. But
I don't know whether that would be our role as well. I think the ambulance association could very much do that.
well, I'm just,
They're the non-governmental body to this. We're just putting it out to the voters. I don't know whether that would be appropriate for us or not.
I think Chief Walsh is correct in that. You never, coming from the office of selectmen, you don't want to be in a position of advocating for anything. You're putting the information before the town meeting and letting the voters make up their mind. Being in a position of advocating has consequences.
Now,
That,
Ted explained, was it Thursday night? But he talked about how much it was going to increase the tax rate. And he said $180,000 house, it would increase the tax bill by just over $100, if I
That was
remember.
less than that.
I really don't like to go there, because
Right.
we're
very
not.
confusing.
The thing that's going back to the tax bill is the overall amount of money.
That may be.
You know, it isn't just this one item.
That may be, but that explanation may convince people that yes, we ought to do it. But it's got to be either the selectmen or the ambulance association. If they put an ad in the shopper, get the Sanford News to do something. But you've got to be able to show the people, and this is a crisis mode, especially if, in fact, this doesn't happen and you people, the ambulance association, decides to shut down.
Well,
And you have to understand that the state and the federal government, if they had their way, there would be no volunteers. And that the changes that they've made in, you've got to have a certain level of training before you can ride in the ambulance now. That, when I became an EMT in 1973, and believe me, I don't want to be an EMT. I don't like the sight of blood. But we went to Harvard University and spent a week, and I was one of the instructors. And in return, every day I had to go and take the other classes. At the end of the week, they didn't call them EMTs then, I don't remember what they called them. But, you know,
Funeral directors.
LAAs, licensed
They are.
attendants.
but my point is that every time, when I went on the fire department, I had to buy my own gear, but we weren't required, you could take training as you went along. Now you go on the fire department, you can't even go on the fire ground, and what is it, $200 now?
Okay, can we come back to that's really got nothing to do with Article 6, okay?
Yes, it does, because the selectmen have to, if they want to see this article passed, they're going to have to put something in the paper, something that explains why we're doing it, whatever number the selectmen's number or the number you people came up with or any other number, what it's going to end up costing the property owners in this town.
But that's when we address Article 28, okay? But we gotta get to Article 28.
Yes, but you're not gonna get Article 6 passed unless you can explain to the voters why we need to do it.
Tonight, we're voting on Article 6.
We're not voting on Article 6, are we?
Yes.
It's a ballot question,
Huh?
even though
We
it's a
have to
ballot
put recommend,
question.
oh yeah, sure, we have to, yeah, we have to.
They're asking us, the selectmen, Jen, are asking us to make a recommendation on Article 6.
Okay,
May I inject one additional comment, Mr. Chairman?
it won't be on the ballot though.
That's the question I addressed to the selectmen when we started.
I don't have the definite answer to that, so in lieu of that, make your recommendation, yea or nay, and if we could put it on, we will, if not.
I'd like to add one additional comment addressing the issue of giving this thing legs. Putting together an ordinance describing the Acton Volunteer, Acton Municipal Rescue and Acton Municipal Fire and Rescue Department would be a process that would give this thing legs. And the way you do that is you establish a special town meeting at the, special committee at the town meeting to create the ordinance, working with the finance committee, the fire, the rescue, and everybody else that needs to be involved, and putting that ordinance together, getting the approval of the departments, and then taking it to the floor of the town meeting. That will give it legs, and when it's all done, everybody will understand what they're doing, or what they're supposed to be doing. That's the proper procedure here.
Okay, let me modify that slightly.
Well, we don't have any.
No, but I say, either have a special town meeting to put that requirement in, or the selectmen could consider of adding an article to this town meeting.
Yep.
You know, so that we don't have to wait.
Yep.
And all it would do is turn around and have one of the requirements, to set up the committee to come up with the ordinance and get it ready for a special town meeting.
Right. That would be an excellent idea.
I
Unfortunately,
think that would get us moving forward.
this particular board has not exhibited a great deal of interest in having committees.
He's taking,
But he's taking notes anyway.
he's taking notes,
That's encouraging.
and so that's a plus, I think. So getting back to Article 6. Okay?
Yes.
The chair will entertain a motion on Article 6.
I will make a motion that Article 6, we recommend that it be approved as as printed in the article.
I second.
How about we make it that the town accept the
Good.
assets of owning that?
That's going to form.
And that's what the article says.
Yeah, shall the town vote to? That's, you know.
Problem is, Nancy, you can't put in a recommendation like that in this scenario, I don't think, but go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I don't know.
We can't alter the,
Right.
You can't alter the wording of the article.
But you're gonna either vote to accept the article or not.
right, that's the
Yeah.
problem with putting this on in this way.
So,
Well, it's hard to make a recommendation.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do.
Yeah, when it's written like this.
I'm just driven by the fact that we have to place the cornerstone in this. And it's going to be placed if we can persuade our fellow citizens to vote for 6 and that they agree to the idea of taking that agency under our wings. And everything else that comes out of it thereafter can be done through any means that the Board of Selectmen wish to do. But they realize that all sorts of things will have to take place before the actual transfer occurs. So I second Mark's motion that we accept it as written.
I think you have to recommend approval of the article.
and that's what he said, as written.
Right, well, yes, but you're saying shall the town? Well, recommend.
Right,
approval of
the article is written as a question,
Yeah,
is the
it's
problem
written as a
here.
question.
So you
I
don't
think
approve it as
recommend
written.
approval of the article.
Shall the town vote to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
So the
We
answer is-
recommend a yes vote by the voters.
Yeah,
That-
recommend approval of the article.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that's what I said.
That's what he said, and I seconded the motion.
All right,
I'll vote the same way as I said I was gonna vote, just so people ask questions.
So moved and seconded to accept the article as written.
Yeah.
You said originally printed, but
Yeah.
as written.
Yep.
Got it,
Okay? All those in favor of the motion?
I already wrote it down, you guys don't have to vote. It's just like the last few articles did at the school. With all that contingency funding, but that's okay. Hopefully it'll raise a question.
I know it.
If only 50 people come.
I should have spiked your tea this
Yeah. Your problem is I gave you too good a cup of coffee tonight, before you came over here.
Okay, 5-1.
Right, that's what I recorded.
And for the selectmen, if you would like to discuss the possibility of either modifying one of the other article or adding an article to put in some of these other things that we're talking about.
Yep, I did take some notes on that, so I'll bring it up Thursday night. Thanks, Tom.
There's a summary as I was putting this together.
Otherwise, I think some of these decisions we delayed till the town meeting, and then all of a sudden, if there would be a recommendation or something like that, then all of a sudden they'll just put it off. They have to have another town meeting to get the authority to do these things, unless it's just a gentleman's word that you're gonna do it. So I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Onward and upward.
Sorry, we,
Sure, you need
I'm
another
thinking of
meeting.
something, that's all.
We'll be working with the-
sorry we kept you as long as we did.
We will be working with possibly Thursday to work on some of these other things that have come up for discussion.
Okay, at the board meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I mean,
gentlemen.
I think he invited me, he told me about this, and I think he wanted.
You're all welcome to come to the board meetings. They're open to the public, and we encourage you to come. One of the problems here is we don't have enough volunteers.
I know.
When is the next board meeting?
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
This coming Thursday?
Yep.
At the,
At
at
the
Fire station, yep, at 18:30.
6:30.
18:30, okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. And
Thank you, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
We lose our selectmen.
Yeah, we did, why don't we wait for him to come?
No? Okay. I just have a handout pertaining to Articles 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
If I may, I think I can...
Those are the articles we're going to be discussing next anyway.
Okay. It's a copy here for everybody. I did this in response to an issue that arose with these articles recently. This was my handout to the planning board.
Oh, right, yeah.
This was my handout to the planning board on last Thursday.
Yeah,
night.
Thank you.
Did you ever get a response from the selectmen on your concerns at the last meeting?
It
About that
was,
word missing or
it
something?
was deemed legal. I have not seen the written email pertaining to that determination, and I'm puzzled as to how that was reached. It was either deemed legal, or it was more, in my sensibility, it was more, it's too late to change it. We can't pull Articles 3, 4, and 5, which I was recommending that they do.
So that's the question
because
they were responding to.
the question they're responding to is my contention that because the selectmen, well, let me walk through this if I may. Ed maybe heard the second hand, I wish you could hear the first hand, but that's okay. The item 1, entitled Mandatory Shoreline Zoning, is a little abstract from Maine revised statutes annotated on page. The second page of that, you'll see there's some underlined sections under municipal ordinances.
Just read your last sentence.
reads, how do you know I wrote that?
Yeah.
Municipalities shall prepare and submit to the commissioner zoning and land use ordinances that are consistent with or are no less stringent than, which is the key phrase there, the minimum guidelines adopted by the board, which in this case is the Board of Environmental Protection. So that's,
I think everybody knows that.
okay. Well, I had to kind of build this up as I went. Item 2 is in, at the heading is in, reads Department of Environmental Protection, Green Book, Section 16, Administration, in my handwriting. This is the wording in state statutes that we were building from, both Planning Board and Board of Selectmen, in addressing the conditions under the condition use permit process by which these allowances would be conducted. And the wording in E2, under special exceptions, there is the key phrase, "The lot on which the structure is proposed is undeveloped and was established and recorded in the Registry of Deeds." I'll just leave you there. Going to item 3, the order, which is the ballot as we're going to see it on June 9th. You'll notice that in question 2, the Board of Selectmen's reading on the special exceptions, they, instead of having it numbered, they have it lettered. This would be under B. The lot on which the structure is proposed was established and recorded. They have omitted the word in state statutes, undeveloped. Okay. And they adopted the same verbiage as the planning board used. In doing that, the intent of the planning board in their work, because the planning board was outside of shoreline zone, they were not bound by the provisions of mandatory shoreline zoning. We left out, the planning board left out, the word undeveloped to mean that both developed and undeveloped lots could be eligible for the provisions of conditional use permit provision. This was in the little resource protection areas outside of the shoreline zone that we've been showing you in the maps. When the selectmen or their attorney adopted that language directly from the planning board, with the omission of the word undeveloped,
Okay, yeah.
they,
But let's say, so that to be taken as a typo.
you can take it however you want. The word undeveloped is not there.
Okay, so they can put it in.
Not
Why?
before it goes to the voters.
Why? Of course they can put it in. And it's not voters yet, it hasn't been.
No, but they had the official public hearing.
That's the purpose of a public hearing, isn't it? To find out what the problems are,
But they
so
got
that
this-
if falls and something comes up,
It would
it can
be,
be modified.
it would be if they had done it in a timely manner, but they, by the date of the day after the public hearing, their window of opportunity to change this language had gone.
Where does it say that?
Jennifer,
Okay, I'll ask you to provide me with
Well, it's not
where the.
Jennifer and Ted are stating that to me. And the ballots are going out tomorrow. The ballots are written up with this language, omitted. This whole process, we found from the planning board, has been very, there is no window left for tweaking things, as you indicate would be a common sense way to do it. Anyway, I have caught hell for pointing this out. I was overstepping all manner of bounds.
No.
Anyway.
If something is wrong, Tom, then you have
Well,
full right to bring it to the
No.
attention.
I've been invited to view the 250-foot imaginary fence line within which no issues pertaining to absentee ballot discussions can be conducted. And Yoli Gallagher offered me one side of her lawn or another, which I don't decide to.
Did you say that the absentee ballots are going out tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes.
So in other words, what are we bothering to be here tonight for?
Well, that's the question that Dick began this hearing with, if you recall.
Whatever we decided tonight isn't gonna change the ballot.
Well, that's the absentee ballot. That's the absentee ballot. And,
All ballots have to be the same.
Yes.
yes.
The absentee ballots,
I hope so.
the absentee ballots have been printed and are going out tomorrow.
Ed can answer that.
I don't think they've been printed. I think she's got a draft up there, and she's waiting for these recommendations tonight, if I understand correctly. And she's not gonna have, she's not gonna have 200 ballots up there. She's gonna have 5 or 10 absentee ballots. I believe, as I understand what's happening, that's the process. You probably, can you shed any light on
I
that?
don't know for sure, but I do know as of last Friday, that was the Friday, I believe, was the cutoff for anything to be added, subtracted, because I think she is,
Right.
I I don't know if she's physically printed them or not, but absentee ballots are going to be readily available within days, so. I don't know if she's actually.
She
So,
has
so
been-
when are you gonna decide if our recommendation is gonna be on the ballot articles? You aren't meeting, you can't decide that without a meeting, I wouldn't think.
None.
On
excuse
the
me.
absentees. The absentees.
All the ballots have to be the same.
Right, but I don't, the absentee ballots aren't for town meeting, that's for the actual voting.
In other words,
No, I'm talking about the ballot, I'm talking
I came in halfway
about,
through the conversation, I
I'm-
apologize.
I'm talking about questions, Article 6, that's going to be on the ballot.
Sacrosanct land issue.
I'll find out an answer within the next few minutes for you.
Yeah, because I don't,
Yeah.
unless you guys have decided one way or the other, you can't decide now.
Right. Carry on, and I'll have an answer for you in a minute.
what was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Whether,
Well, whether,
Whether I.
you know, I said, is our
Yeah, maybe
recommendation
on-
gonna be on the
Well,
ballot?
I
They said
am-
it was up in the air, it was
What?
undecided.
I asked this question of Jennifer
stuff,
a month or more ago. I said, where and in what format are the recommendations of Finance and Warrant and Planning Board going to appear to the voters?
And
what I
we were
recollected-
told,
What I recollected was that in the foyer, Jennifer will have all this material spread out for the voters on June 9th, pertaining to Articles 2 through 6, and the ballots,
It won't be on the ballot per se, but it will be in the entryway.
that's what I recall has been done in the past. And she said, I'll verify that with you.
well, that's what I just asked. I said,
Yeah.
what difference does it make whether we recommend it or not? Because it's not going to be on the ballot.
No, it cannot be on the ballot. She clarified
That was my
But it-
understanding.
But it will, as I understood it, it will be visible to the voters outside of the voting area in the foyer. So,
And that'll be very effective.
right?
How many people stop and look at that?
5.
But you can join me on
6.
Noli's front yard.
It's, you know,
Actually,
you're blowing your nose into the wind.
I had two people walk in, read all the stuff outside,
Oh, really?
turned around and left.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know whether the planning board is gonna have another informational meeting or not. It's probably, certainly there's time in the schedule to allow that. The planning board, when we last met, I walked through this with them. It was the last item on the agenda, and I'm hoping at our next meeting to ask for a recommendation by the planning board on these 3 ballot questions. To date, they have not made the recommendation. But,
Yeah, well, they can recommend, nobody's gonna see it. Right?
the folks that view the public TV, and
I'm surprised how many people do that.
there is the
I was
newspaper.
amazed.
There is the newspaper.
I would be pleasantly
The
surprised.
press has not completely rolled up yet. So, just to get back to my overview for you, you will see that in item, question 2, item 4226, part B, the word undeveloped was omitted by the Board of Selectmen, and that is, my contention there was that that was done in error, following the lead of the planning board language, where it was
Yeah,
legal or rightfully, changed, but in the Board of Selectmen's proposal, I think it was incorrectly omitted. And at best it's incorrect, and at worst it's illegal. My problem with that is putting that kind of a article in front of the voters that has to be changed textually, not the intent so much. The intent may be there, but the meaning is not there, so you're gonna have to.
But it's invalid if it's against state law. and-
Correct.
Okay, so there's a whole amendment is going, that portion of it is going to be invalid, can't be counted.
Okay, let me ask the selectman. Okay,
Well, they have gotten,
you're familiar with what the question he has?
Somewhat.
There was wording missing.
I know everything that we had done was all sent off to be approved by the attorney, so.
Yeah, but if the attorney
Yeah,
missed
except
it
he may
too,
not have-
you know,
You may have missed it.
He's a little bit.
I mean, does that mean the article is
If somebody
valid?
fights it, I guess, yeah, you'd have to fight it to come up to prove that it was wrong. To back up a smidge, the answer, absentee ballots are available tomorrow, so yes, they've all been printed. So absentee ballots are available tomorrow at the town clerk's office.
and can I,
So we really don't need to make a decision tonight or
I
whatnot.
believe so, yeah. Correct.
So Tom, the way I look at it, if we can't change it officially,
right,
then we turn around and either vote for it or against it, and then if all of a sudden it's, voted in a positive way to prove it, and it determined that, it was written wrong, so then all of a sudden it just
It's
becomes
invalid.
voted. Even though it's voted in.
It's invalid because it's against state law.
It's invalid anyhow.
Yeah,
It frustrates the state law is the terminology in
Okay,
in the home rule provision.
I'm well aware of frustration.
Okay,
that
yes,
this can be-
it frustrates the state law, even though the provisions of the law go on to say that this section shall be interpreted liberally. That means that you have to have absolute evidence that it's wrong, that you can't base a judgment to reject on supposition of what a court might do.
Thank you.
Okay.
after and I'm speaking tonight as a citizen on the Finance and Warrant Committee, not as a representative of the planning board. I am on the planning board, I am not a representative of the planning board. Can I parse that way? I guess I can.
Sounds good. Go for it.
So I would recommend that, because, number one, the premise of the Board of Selectmen's proposal, as I have gleaned it to date, was that there would be many properties owners coming in to seek abatements if the status quo was maintained, and we didn't allow for some deregulation of building in these resource protection areas. And that concern gave rise to the planning board's action, which we thought addressed that concern. There was quite a step back in regulation there and allowance through the conditional use permit to expand into those little rings around the smallest wetlands. But we did consider the Board of Selectmen's notion of allowing them in the shoreline zone in the resource protection zones in the shoreline zone, but we thought those, we adopted a hands-off attitude on those, which I think was a sensible way to conduct ourselves. But it has turned out that there have been no abatements granted because of the existence of the newly implemented areas in 2011 in the 4 years since the date of implementation. As I mentioned maybe before this board before, there were 15 abatement requests made between September 29, 2011 and the present day. 5 of those were questionable that Jennifer shared with us. And we met with O'Donnell's office, and Ted and Ken and Chip and I were there. Not one of the 5 involved resource protection outside of shoreline.
That, as far as I'm concerned, that's immaterial, okay? I have not filed an abatement, okay? Because I turned around and knew all these things were in the works, and so I'm just holding off. And hoping that there'd be a resolution, okay? And I wouldn't have to file for an abatement. There are many pieces of property around that people don't even know that they're being impacted by this, okay? And my main point was that even though that the planning board had somewhat bit of sympathy and tried to make some modifications to the exception, that they didn't go far enough. And like I turned around and mentioned, just a few small words that allow that if the maps are wrong, that they turn around and that the code officer is allowed to turn around and make a site visit. And if all of a sudden it's obvious to, anybody with common sense, he can turn around and say, even if he's gonna go to the planning board and explain it,
May I?
like I told you in my own incident, it shows that the buffer zone goes all the way out to the road. And when I measured it, I came only to the middle of the field. So if he went out and he collaborated by measurement, then he say, by God, you're right, as long as you don't go putting in any building or septic system on this side of the line, then fine. We don't care what the green line on the map says, the map was wrong. But no, all you want to do is just turn around and hang your hat on the map,
No.
and then turn around and then you don't give him any leeway.
That's not true. All of these applications, whether you're in shoreline zone or resource protection, always come down to a site evaluated of necessity coming on site and lending some credibility to the map, some refinement to the map. The map is merely a guideline. It's not.
May I? Because I think you guys both have established positions here, and I think there's a middle ground that deals with all the issues. Okay, may I?
Yeah, I was just hoping that we could deal with what was in front of us rather than.
Well, I think we can, but I think probably what we have is an amendment that argues about assessing, which we know is not a real issue, and then we have the existing ordinance, which addresses the existing ordinance and the maps, which address conservation, etc. And that those things are fine, but we need something that's not in the middle that solves all the issues. None of these three proposed articles deal with all the issues that are before us. The problem with a code enforcement officer, Richard, is that it is not unknown, even in the little town of Acton, that selectmen have advised the code officer from time to time to lay off and not enforce. The code officer does not want this authority on his head because he can get nailed for it. That's number one. Number two, the premise of abating lots turns out to be a false premise, but that's okay. There may be some lots out there that do need abating. We don't know enough to get there yet. Thirdly, the more I listened to the discussion of these proposed amendments, the more apparent it became to me as the whole time went on that the issue is not the ordinance, the issue primarily is of the maps.
Yep.
Okay? The maps are developed, as we know, by taking shots from an airplane and looking at the vegetation that we have there and deciding that they describe the soil. All right? Now, this is great for gross defining, but not very good when it comes to fine defining. And also, the other problem with this is that when somebody's drawing that line around these hydric soils, they're going to encompass them all because that's what they're focused on. They're not going to try and sort, okay? So if we start with the assumption that the maps are wrong, okay, I'm going to suggest that the way to deal with this issue is that we get the right information. And that we pay something for it to landowners. I think I've brought this issue up before. Let's suppose a landowner, I don't know what it costs to get a site evaluation done, but a site evaluation benefits the town as well as the landowner.
Yeah.
It aids us in refining our maps, And if we ever do get into the scenario where we have to abate land, at least we'll know we're abating the land that needs abating. So what I'm suggesting here is that the proper path forward is for the town to decide that they're going to assist in part of or pay all of the cost. Well, don't shake your head, no, it's a decision for the town meeting to go. I'm not saying what the amount is, but the town should, because it has an interest in this, be willing to at least fund some of the work of a site assessor and have access to the information, which the town is going to have anyway. And then we'll know whether we have to abate or not. But we're not even to that point yet. Okay? So we've got bad information, but what are we doing? We're writing bad ordinance changes based on bad information. We're not dealing with the problem.
We're throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
Like every one of these.
The problem here is, at least we have substantial reason to believe, okay? And Dick's example is a perfect one, okay? Of maybe a little over-enthusiastic guy in an airplane trying to identify land, all right? So I don't know how we get there. I don't know what the site evaluation costs. I don't know what portion the town should be willing to pay. I do know, and Dick and I were describing this earlier, Dick hired our current code enforcement officer. 1 year later, I got his pay doubled, so he stayed in town because I thought he was pretty good. But then we looked at fees to reimburse him, okay? And at the time, we had a public hearing to establish these fees, and there was a lot of discussion back and forth. Well, if we're gonna have to pay him more, we're gonna have to charge more for the fees. And I said to the town meeting, hearing at that time, I said, look, who's buying the protection here? The guy who's trying to build a new house is not buying the protection. We, the current residents of Acton, are the one who are buying the protection. And our code is for our own protection and the protection of our resources and the protection of our economic viability. And it turned out that the town meeting agreed, didn't raise fees, assessed or appropriated the money to pay Ken, and we were done. And the town meeting understood that. That's a suggestion.
Every town that has adopted those new maps has ended up in having problems. The maps are not correct.
Well,
And that is the main problem.
they're too big. Okay, so, I guess.
You see, that is a great idea, but that can all be handled as exceptions to the rule with a system of procedures, and it should involve the code officer, who would then go ahead and initiate a soil sample or whatever else.
No, the owner has to do that. The owner has to do that.
So, whatever it is, those procedures should be put in so that they are followed when somebody wants to ask for an exception.
The procedures are in there.
The
Procedures
procedures are not in there, because we don't have any way of saying, yes, the map is wrong, we're gonna change the map.
No, that's incumbent upon the landowner.
Right.
Since when do we start paying people to develop their land? What are we're gonna go down and give Mr. Jones
No, wait a minute. We pay a code enforcement officer what is an ever-growing chunk of change here, okay? Because again, we're buying the protection. We're protecting
Right.
our turf,
Yeah,
okay?
you're protecting zoning that you implemented as a town meeting.
Right.
That's what you're.
But our zoning also should not be depriving owners of the use of land for which there is no good reason. If it's just a matter of the map having been encompassed a group of areas, smaller areas, that are one thing or another, okay, then we need to define that more clearly. Okay, I'll shut up, I've said
Well,
what I have to say.
the definition of those issues comes through an application to do a project, and from there you do real-time, real-world evaluation.
Right.
To hypothetically, as has been done by members of the town, to combat, regulations that are existing and proposed as, regulation upon regulation.
There ought to be a mechanism for every citizen to make changes in whatever the town
There
says. There isn't, because it's not, otherwise we wouldn't be proposing to make these changes. There ought to be a mechanism for exceptions to the rule. And the biggest exception, you said, are the maps, which I would understand. Okay, so we ought to have a procedure that would be handled by the code officer with the planning committee and the board of selectmen to make special exceptions to the rule.
Bill, we do have procedures that are built into the standard that allow for site evaluation to override the maps. Those are in the code.
So what's the problem then?
Show me.
I don't know, do we or don't we, Tom?
Show me.
It's incumbent upon the landowner or the developer, in this case, whatever scale you're at, to do their own site analysis.
But the point is, a site analysis, if it's done, overrides the map, is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's, okay.
The map is a guideline to show the landowner and Kenny
Right.
that either there is an issue here that has to be delineated more sharply
Right.
or not.
Right.
But
That's all.
whether the map is right, wrong, or different, you tell me how, because supposedly I'm in the 250-foot buffer,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
That any addition, a 2-foot canopy over the front door is gonna impact the wetland that is probably 500 feet away from it.
I think the theory behind that, Richard, is death by 1,000 cuts. When you have,
Well, he understands that possibly, but the question is, what mechanism does he have right now?
conditional use permit. You go before the planning board and you explain what your issues are and if there's a verbiage that would allow a permit to be given with conditions that would not aggravate the situation, then that can be done. But there are certain guidelines like of wetland delineations, et cetera, like that have to be abided by. There are certain fences, so to speak, that stand. And
Yeah, but if you're showing a wetland where there is no wetland, you know?
I mean, part of that is not just part of that is wildlife habitat issues, not just,
See, you keep coming up with a.
And that's why it should be written down so that landowner knows what the process is and what are the possibilities. Huh?
there is a
But
process.
between me and the school.
I'd like to see it.
Okay, between me and the school, you show me the wetland,
I-
okay? Further down my property, on the tail end, yeah, there is a wetland. But the map shows it coming all the way up, the brook.
Well, I think again, the map, we know the maps are wrong, okay? We know they overstate the case, probably, in all likelihood. And the recourse to that is to get the land properly mapped so that what we show actually reflects what is there. That's the answer to the problem. And
Not to eliminate the resource protection areas
Right.
in the heartland.
Where they're needed, where
In
they're
the-
They
needed.
exist.
Where they exist.
Yes.
In the heartland, not just the shore areas, but in the non-shore areas. That is something that is going to hurt us in the long run. And it's not gonna be death by 1,000, it's gonna be death by 100-fold. As far as our lakes are concerned, if we get rid of all of the 1,000 acres of inland wetland protection buffers. But as far as people who have a bona fide request based on possibly faulty information from the code officer, we ought to have, and I'd like to see it, Mr. Gore, the written procedure for a homeowner to proceed in asking for changes to be made so that he or she can, in fact, put added structure to their property.
Okay, I haven't seen it, I have asked the question.
Well, as much fuel or...
Excuse me, I have asked the question, is there a procedure, and does, which you just heard me ask, is there a procedure to override the mapping? Okay, then the answer was yes. So, and that's incorporated into the land use ordinance. Now, that may be right and it may be wrong, but that's my understanding, that the procedure is in there. The question is,
Primarily, that's set up to address non-conforming lots of record.
okay, all right, so maybe we need some additional procedure in there
Right.
too, okay? What we need to be able to do is clarify what the maps are saying. And what I'm advocating for is that we, as a town, okay, agree to,
Yeah, but right now, we're voting on a recommendation of this,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
And part of it is, I think, the way the discussion is going, mutual agreement that there are still some questionable areas here that need to be ironed out, okay?
I agree, Dick, I didn't get it off the track, but I'm trying to focus on what's the problem here, not what's the solution. Because again, we have a set of solutions here.
But we have then a procedure that doesn't work, because there's people complaining about it.
We don't know that that's the case, but.
Well, we do know that's the case. He doesn't even know there is a procedure. And he is one of the major citizens of the community.
And I can't believe, being as how probably 25 or 30 towns have already fought this and won, that the planning board should be able to talk to one of these other towns and find out what needs to be done to straighten this problem out.
Or to allow for exceptions to the rules.
Well, exceptions to the rules are problematic, but a better definition of the rules, where the rules apply, I think is what's in order.
Now,
But I already said that.
Article, wait a minute, let me either ask Tom or Ed here. It's my understanding, okay, that the intent anyway of the selectmen's proposal is to, oh wait, let me back up. That the article, the zoning ordinance as written now exceeds the state DEP requirements.
The proposed ordinance.
No, the one that's
Status quo?
that is in,
The buffer for the inland wetlands
is
is
in
above
excess
what
of
is
state
above what the
requirement.
state requires.
And so it's the intent of whether the word is missing or not, the intent of the selectmen proposal was to bring us back to what the state DP
As
requirements
addressed.
are.
As
For
addressed.
shoreline zone.
Correct. For Article 3.
But the net result is that they
But I think
eliminate the
there's
inland
too many
wetlands.
people are unaware of that, okay?
But the net result is that they eliminate the designation of inland wetlands,
But
which is not right.
Well, for that matter, I think that the minimum standards for the state of Maine may be fine in Washington County and Aroostook County and maybe Piscataquis County and a few others, but when I look around our lakes down here, I think we need a little bit more than the minimum to protect them.
Well, you tell me how even a 10-acre wetland 5 miles away from
I
a
don't know.
lake
I don't know, Dick.
would have any impact
I don't know.
on a lake 5 miles away,
I don't know. I
okay?
don't know.
A single one probably wouldn't, but the law would not prohibit 100. That's the problem, Richard. The laws are not written for individuals. The law is written for the public good and the maintenance of the resources that we all use.
Another tough one.
So anyway, in order to try to wind things up here or change focus, seeing as our recommendations don't amount to anything, are not needed for tomorrow, okay, as was told by me, to me. We really don't need to make these recommendations any more than any others.
Do you want to just,
So as I say, as far as I'm concerned, it's, we're going to keep,
Even if we make a recommendation, it's not gonna be on the ballot.
right?
apparently not.
No, sometime in next year or the year after, if it's being addressed, someone can look back and say, even in 2015, they were questioning whether or not this was a wise decision.
Well, it may not be on the ballot. It won't be on the ballot, but it may be visible to the
But
voters.
we do not have to make the decision
No, that's correct.
tonight,
Correct.
because all of a sudden, all they needed is prior to our last meeting, the 18th.
Better not be, because 2 weeks from now,
2 weeks from now.
Is Memorial Day.
right, and we're not gonna be here.
Right, okay.
But we can make a recommendation after that, because the only thing that's gonna happen is it's gonna get stuck out in the hall. Doesn't matter. Oh,
Would this committee feel would be appropriate to ask Ed to help us with an email to explain the little legal decision that was made in pretty short notice regarding the legality of going ahead with that wording incorrect, with the omission of the word undeveloped?
I think that's entirely
Could you
appropriate.
please help us with that?
Yeah, I think that's entirely appropriate. I assume that was from MMA?
No, I would assume it's from Mr. Lankowski. I don't know who it was from.
I haven't seen that one yet, so.
I think,
One of the things we do need to take action on is that we goofed on one of the articles, Article 19 is,
we goofed, we never goofed, did we?
I told it was Tom Gore's fault.
Yeah, oh, yeah, okay,
I
right.
to catch his
Yeah,
thing.
she did, he did, I saw it. He even emailed me that it was my fault.
Okay, which one is it?
Article 19,
Do you have another copy of this one? Hold on.
Oh, right.
I'll put it in my file.
Article 19 says to see if the town will vote to set the interest rate to be paid by the town on abated taxes.
At 3%.
Right,
Recommend,
and so we recommended adopting it as written.
and it should
And
be.
it really, what I was told by the town clerk is that they would like to have it,
Stated
you know,
3%.
just to state that the Warrant and Finance Committee recommends the 3%.
Okay, okay. I don't have any problem with that. Recommend, or I'll make a motion that we change our recommendation on Article 19 of the 5/7/15 draft warrant for the annual town meeting to delete, accept the article as written, 6 to no, and replace that with recommend 3%.
Second it.
Okay, been moved and seconded?
What is the reason for this?
If someone's granted an abatement on their taxes, and I believe that they said it can go back 3 years, and if it's a significant abatement, you really should, the town's been using their money for 3 years, and it would be nice to, I think this
Yeah.
is set by the state as
Right.
well.
So,
So you pay them the
so
3% interest.
what interest rate are we going to set?
3%.
3%.
Well, then why do we need to do it?
Because the town meeting has to set it. The town meeting has to set it, and that's what we're doing here.
Has to approve the interest rate, yeah.
So, it
Just like
says
Article 18.
to see if the town will vote to set the interest rate to be paid by the town on abated taxes at 3%.
Right.
And we set it up, we accepted the article as written.
Right.
Now,
Apparently-
what the hell difference does it make?
I don't know, you'd have to ask the clerk. We're doing the selectmen a favor, as I understand it, in good faith at this point. They asked
It
us.
says
Yeah.
3%, the way the article is written, and so we accepted it, the article is written.
Yes,
So how do you want to change the word?
we delete the recommendation there and recommend 3%, simple as that. And I guess we are doing this at the request of the town clerk and the selectmen, is that correct? so.
So this is the wording, but it's the same thing.
Same number, right? Percy's exactly right, so it's, for one reason or another, they'd like the 3% in the article.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Are we gonna vote on that?
Any other,
We're gonna vote on that?
yeah, any other comment,
No discussion.
discussion? Okay, the motion is to, recommend, the taxes at 3%, right?
Recommend the interest rate of 3%. Recommend 3% interest rate.
Abatements,
I just put down recommend 3%.
recommend 3%, yeah.
All those in favor of the motion? All those in favor? 6 to 1.
6 to
5
1. Huh?
6 to nothing. See?
You needed to drink that whole cup of coffee up there, Richard.
So are we going to vote, Mr. Chairman, on 3, 4, and 5 or not?
I don't think it's necessary.
I don't need that.
Well, I think we probably will at some point in that. While we have Chief Walsh here, I would like to ask a question, if you will permit me, Mr. Chairman. Or maybe,
Go ahead.
maybe provide a warning. Okay, can I go ahead? Okay. I am gonna have a great deal of difficulty recommending $500,000 for a salt shed when I don't have a proposal, much less a plan in front of me. And I assume that the board understands that. Okay, yeah. I'd like to see a contract and a plan for this building, and I assume that we know the location. I don't know how we've got to that conclusion, but, okay. Are we going to have anything?
We should have.
Okay.
We did put it out for,
Right.
we did a RFP for it.
Yeah.
We put it out.
Aware of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
There should be something coming, we should have things back before town meeting.
But we're gonna
That's why
have,
we did it so soon.
yeah,
For two reasons. We wanted to get it out before town meeting, so these companies don't know how much money we have to spend,
right,
which has always been a problem that I've had.
yeah.
You approve $500,000 at town meeting to build a building, it's gonna come in at $499.
Yes.
Well,
No matter how you look at it.
but there might be, that's
So-
not necessarily true. There might be another contractor who wants to build 498.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how the process works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're attempting to go out, we are out looking for a bid on the building. It's a,
Rub?
not a rug building, we put it out as, that was one of the companies that is bidding on it. I can't remember the exact term. That the companies that are gonna build it are gonna.
Design build.
Yes,
Design build firms, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
That's fine.
Yes, so we should have that, maybe not necessarily know exactly who we're gonna use, because we're gonna get the bids, and then we're gonna start the scrutiny.
Few keys to look for here, okay, because I've seen, the design build process is really good, as long as you have a good contractor.
Yeah.
But it can really be a disaster if you get a bad one. So look for a contractor that's been in business a long time and wants to stay in business, where there has not been a change in the family membership. If the old man ran the business 10 years ago, is he still running it? Or did his son, who just graduated from business school, take the company over? That's a real important one.
Exactly.
And, so you can go on with a whole list of things like that.
Did you include
Because it's too hard,
soil
because it's too hard.
tests for the site?
No, and
We don't want to run into another situation where they built it on top of a stump dump.
This, I'm sure, will be taken care of in the process. The problem with it moving forward in the process, with it not having been done already, is that any proposal that comes to us will be contingent on site conditions. The actual site conditions can double the cost of this project overnight, okay, as soon as they start digging. And that's why I have repeatedly urged some geotechnical work ahead of time, because if you have it at small cost by comparison to the overall thing, everybody's working from the same base, all right? You get cases very commonly where the guys bid the omissions, this may change, this may change, this may change, this may change at this stage. And pretty soon, you've started your project and all of a sudden those provisions start kicking in. And that's not an atypical process. And in fact, there's.
You have a $500,000 project, and when you get started, suddenly it's a $750,000
Right, and that
project.
can happen very easily if you were not careful. The other thing is, which I have said before, and it's another reason for doing some geotechnical work, is that the cause of the failure on the existing building we have is not the 50 pounds per square foot of snow on the roof, it's the 2,500 to 3,000 pounds per square foot of salt and sand inside the building, which is causing the soil to depress for a variety of reasons. But we need to know whether the soil on this site that we have is going to support this. This is a heavy structure, right? It's a heavy structure.
But the weight of the sand inside is not, or
The rim? Oh, the superstructure? That's minuscule by comparison with the weight of salt and sand on
so
it.
as I say.
The whole site
And that-
depresses.
But I still have not seen any evidence of the need to turn around and replace it.
Go around the back of it.
Yes, I've been there many times.
Our insurance company, and then the insurance company is driving a lot of this.
Yeah, but as I say,
Coffee in this.
but nobody's really questioned the insurance company.
Oh, yeah, we've
The
questioned
insurance company closed down the goodie shack at the transfer station.
Yeah.
The same insurance company closed down the Lincoln School.
Well, there is a problem, Dick, that is a matter of record. At one point in time, the board hired Allied engineers to come down and take a look at it, because I made one of the biggest mistakes that I ever made as a chairman of the board by getting involved in the technical issues, which, while I'm supposed to be an expert at, the town meeting probably didn't regard me as one, and they have that right, and that was fine, because I was wearing two hats, which was not a good idea. So it'll be a lesson for me.
I just want to save the copy for Holly, so we'll get to it soon.
Oh, okay. Well,
Is there anything else you want to take up? I'm getting tired myself.
You should have had another cup of coffee, I keep telling you that. You can have asparagus for breakfast.
I have one quick thing.
I brought him back asparagus.
Tom had mentioned earlier about something he wanted me to try to do.
Oh,
I just want to throw back, send it up to the selectman's office in email form, whatever you have for questions and whatnot, and we'll see where it goes from there. You had something you wanted answered. I can't answer anything directly myself, so,
right, understood.
yeah, just send it up in email form and we'll,
Well, the chairman will have to do that, I don't send emails.
okay, well,
You know?
whatever the questions are, and whatnot, just send them up that way, but we're good, right?
The question was merely an email, a copy of the email from the lawyer that would explain his thinking on,
Send the request over and we'll,
okay.
Well, we believe that's what the law says, but we're not quite sure what the law means.
It's not
funny, we have an email like one from a very, very reputable legal firm.
If the absentee ballots are going out tomorrow, you can't put anything else in.
yeah. Correction on that, it's actually Wednesday.
Wednesday.
She sent me an update, so, yeah, but either way, they're all corrected.
I'll make
Okay,
a motion to adjourn.
before we do that,
Oh, you want it?
because of early Labor Day, we've been moved back, so we really only have one more meeting.
Yeah.
To try to get through all the articles. Personally, I feel it's a physical impossibility, but,
Well, most of them are sort of self-explanatory.
right.
But I'm just surprised that we didn't address numbers 4, 5, 6, and 7 tonight after we've talked it to
Well, we
death
did
for
address
30
6.
minutes. Huh?
We did address 6, we don't have to address 7 tonight. But
Or
3,
4.
3, 4, and 5 were the ones, and I don't like any of them, so.
But we talked it to death, but then we didn't vote on it.
That's all right.
Yeah, my handout might, hopefully someone will read that after the fact, and we can maybe make a recommendation next time.
Yeah. Or we'll have a split recommendation, possibly.
But now I could care less.
Time to go home and have a glass of wine, right?
Move